To explain how this could happen, we have to go back to 2 days ago, day 2 leading up to the Wifus Hall incident. His archery skills were now well honed after he had survived in the forest for some time, and now he was seen in his hunting session. He was not talented in combat skills, so every time he went hunting, he forced himself to use a crossbow, but even after a semester and half of vacation, his proficiency in crossbow-related skills remained stagnant, especially recently. Around his residence, there were sometimes some visitors. He could only resign himself to that. The number of people who knew that he lived in the North Forest seemed to be increasing. Among the visitors he often met, there were 3 most important people. Visitor A was a genius magician, and her visiting hours were very random. She also often bothered him regarding the design of his cabin, such as adding a back door and so on, but Ed ignored her and quickly kicked her out. But she didn't give up so easily. She continued to pester him about the cabin design. She was very enthusiastic when talking about this. Ed just felt that Visitor A was very unpredictable, unlike Visitor A. Visitor B was someone he was quite welcoming. She was a second-year top-ranked student and a fairly reliable spirit sorcerer. She also sometimes brought him things every time she visited, and often helped him with his homework. He didn't mind her frequent visits and welcomed her without any inconvenience. This spirit sorcerer came every day, chatting with the spirits or helping with small things. Ed was very grateful for being greatly helped by her presence. Ed also praised her for doing a good job, but Janica immediately turned her face away while blushing. Ed, who didn't know her true feelings, could only be surprised to see that. Sometimes she was quite easy to understand, but sometimes there were parts that were difficult to understand about her. She even once asked how often Lucy came to his residence with a scary look. Even so, she was still an important visitor, and the main reason why he explained all this was because Visitor C, when it was night time with the moon shining so beautifully above the sky, she visited his residence accompanied by a maid. In this world, she was known as the Golden Daughter. She was the mastermind behind the scenes of Act 2. She was probably trying to gather useful people to take control of the Wifus Hall, but this time, Ed really didn't want to get involved, so he decided to refuse everything she offered. If he didn't get involved, everything would go according to the scenario. At least that's what Ed thought at the moment, until he heard from Lortel that Tote was unconscious. Ed was surprised why this was not going according to the scenario. He then asked why Tote fell unconscious. He immediately told Lortel to explain it in detail. Lortel was quite surprised when she saw the sudden change in his attitude. Originally Tote picked a fight with Taylor, but he was supposed to get beaten just enough by Taylor, because he was just showing his disbelief in Taylor defeating Glaskin. Everyone in the school knew that Taylor was beaten by Lucy with 1 blow, but for some reason, Tote then insulted Taylor by saying that he was even worse than that insect Ed Roth Taylor. And Zix, who heard that, immediately hit him hard in the face, which caused him to fall unconscious. Zix was very angry when he heard him insult Ed. Alvira, who saw the incident, said this was the first time she had seen Zix this angry before. Lortel could only sigh when telling that. She couldn't believe someone who was so emotional. She then assured Ed that his task was not difficult. He just needs to take this key from Ellis and get into the Wifus Hall, then open the door when the low-ranking students are gathering in front of the Wifus Hall. Hearing that, Ed then asked, why did she choose him when there are many people who can also do that? It's because she can't trust all of them, even if she offered them a lot of money. There is no guarantee that they will leak the truth to the Academy's internal investigators after this incident. If they leaked that Lortel from the first year was the mastermind behind all this, then her position would be threatened, so she couldn't trust them. Hearing that, Ed at that time realized that the reason Lortel asked for his help was because of his already bad reputation. Lortel then reassured him. Didn't he want revenge after being expelled from the Wifus Hall? But Ed said that he didn't really want to do that, but even so, he would still listen to her offer. Ed just felt he had to do it in moderation. Lortel smiled at that. She then offered 20 gold coins, and Ed agreed to that. He thought, before the story went further astray, he just needed to reset everything. Day 1 to the Wifus Hall incident. While studying, Ed then thought about the Wifus Hall incident scenario. The Wifus Hall possession incident occurred before the Sage's Scroll contest began. Lortel's ploy to drive the Academy's finances into complete madness, so this was like a stepping episode. If the scenario went as it should, Lortel, who succeeds in this conspiracy, will form an independent interest group within the Academy called Merchantry, thus creating a structure that rivals Princess Phenia's Student Association. The idealistic student association and the realistic merchantry. The most important thing is, whoever Taylor chooses will ultimately determine who the winning side is. So Ed decided to observe and join the side that seemed to be winning. He also needed to survive. The weather outside was raining, and Janica, who was visiting here, got rained on. She also felt that it would be better to go back to the dormitory. She originally thought that the rain would stop today. She felt that Ed must be difficult. She could come and go like she was camping, but he had to be here even in rainy weather like today. Hearing that, Ed said that he was just getting used to living here. Now that the vacation was almost over, it was time for Janica to move out of Ophilus Hall. She never thought that the size of Dex Hall was so small. She needed to throw away a lot of things, so she offered it to Ed. If he needed anything, just tell her. He must need a lot of things. Ed didn't deny it. Janica said she had extra blankets, pillows, lanterns, and so on, as well as various other necessities and consumables, so she felt it was a pity to throw away these items, and throwing them away was troublesome. She also couldn't bring the furniture because it belonged to the Ophilus Hall. Janica was very enthusiastic when she wanted to help him, and Ed happily accepted. Janica was happy to hear that, and said she would bring it all when the new semester started. Their attention was then distracted when they saw Lucy, who was standing still on the roof with the rain pattering all over her body. Janica then asked if she often did that. Ed replied, sometimes. Lucy's extraordinarily strong powers didn't come free of cost for her. She lived her life running away using her laziness as an excuse. No matter how many screws she had loose, she couldn't help but reflect on her life on rainy days like this one. Ed said she liked to do things like that when it rained. He told Janica not to think about it too much. He didn't really care either. Janica was very happy when she saw his indifferent attitude towards Lucy. Ed then suddenly called Janica. Janica was then confused by that. Come to think of it, she's still inside Ophilus Hall. When the Ophilus Hall gets occupied, protection runes will activate on a large scale, and lock all students inside their rooms. Janica would have no trouble escaping from there on her own, but Ed then said that he wanted to ask for her help. Janica then asked what it was. Ed then asked her, tomorrow night around 9 o'clock. Could she go out to the rose garden in front of the Ophilus Hall? Janica was initially confused to hear that, but she then misunderstood when she heard the word rose garden. Ed did not immediately explain the specific reason, and would tell her later. He could not think of a way to explain it. Just in case, he had to first get Janica out of the Ophilus Hall, and go somewhere not too far away, where she could avoid the storm. Janica then accepted that. With a heart full of joy, Janica then said goodbye and left under the patter of rain. Ed could only be silent to see that. He could only exhale. The rain would probably only stop during the school reopening ceremony in the morning. At that time, they would be able to see clear skies after a long time. After that, this forest will also definitely be filled with the scent of autumn, and this long vacation will finally come to an end. Day 0 towards the Ophilus Hall incident. At exactly 9 p.m., inside the Ophilus Hall, Zix was seen practicing hard. Even so, he felt that his practice was still lacking. He also felt that he should avoid reacting emotionally as much as possible. He did not expect Aika to be that angry. He then ended his training session, but he was then surprised when he looked out the window. There was a mysterious figure wrapped in a cloak running towards the Ophilus Hall under the patter of rain. That figure was Ed. When he went inside, he was then guided by a maid. He asked what about the other maids. The maid replied, except for the main staff, most of them are gathered in a conference room. The head maid called them to gather to discuss important matters. The plan is to storm them there and block the entrance, since the person in command have been bribed. Ed feels that the plan will go smoothly. The maid also said that the item he mentioned earlier has been prepared. She put it in the corner. Ed thanked her for that. All the preparations were done, and the incident of controlling the Ophilus Hall finally began. The lower-ranked students were very excited in voicing their opinions. They both held a torch, which made the atmosphere even more unfavorable. They said that they could no longer stand this kind of treatment, and demanded the academy to uphold equality in learning. This is the land of learning. Will Rain also loudly said, respond to our voice. And when the students were about to storm in forcefully, they were then shocked and they saw the doors suddenly opened from the inside. Not wasting this opportunity, they then joyfully entered to take control of the Ophilus Hall. Will Rain then thanked the person who opened the door to them. That person was Ed. He had also kept a maid. He then half-heartedly said that he had long approved of the words he had been saying. Of course, he used to live luxuriously in Office Hall, but only after being expelled did he realize how fortunate his life was. Will Rain's body shook violently when he heard his praise. He was deeply touched to hear that. He then blamed himself for judging Ed after hearing some rumors. He just found out that he was someone so wise. He really had played a big role today. Ed just said that it was all this is thanks to him and immediately told him to leave. Will Rain then said that he would rely on him to take care of this place. Will Rain is the one who will bear all this. He can only apologize, and can only encourage him. He doesn't need to chase after the maids who escaped. Right now, the main maids are likely to report that they are trapped in the conference room. The head maid Alice, a protection magic circle expert, is under Lortel's control. With the activation of the protection magic circle, the protection magic circle that was supposed to be a protection for the students, instead turned to imprison the students. The students could only wonder what was really going on outside, if things would get better if they waited. Everything was going according to the scenario, and the mastermind who arranged all this, Lortel, then came and praised him. Everything was going more perfectly than she thought. She felt that she had made the right decision to trust and leave it to him, and the mastermind had now stepped onto the stage.
So, friends, this chapter comes to an end. What will happen next? We'll uncover it in the next chapter. Don't forget to rate this chapter out of 10 in the comments. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and goodbye. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.